3, 2, 1. Playback, please. Press bar marked visual playback. Appropriate replies. Playback cylinders. Visualization of the electronic program. Live. Watching. 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 Watching.
Hey everybody, welcome to Living in the New Renaissance. I'm your host Darren. We're doing a little bit of a follow-up today to a podcast that we did back on number 3. Back then I did a Ask a Geezer, and I thought today we'd do something a little different. And we're speaking today, and I haven't checked anything other than just his first name. So speaking today with Fahed
Sakr.
Sakr, thank you. And
No problem.
so what we're doing today is Fahed. I figured we'd go and do the flip side of Ask a Geezer and do today an Ask a Gen Z, or Gen Z if you're north of the border, or north of the wall as I like to call it. So what this is way back in podcast 3, I was asked a bunch of questions through Brian Rose's Broadcast Yourself podcast, and I figured we'd adapt them for that and for Fahed and see what kind of answers we get here. So anyways, first of all though, Fahed, do you want to tell me a little bit about your podcast? Because I actually found you online, and you listened to an episode of your podcast last night. So just want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh God. Do you mind me asking which episode you listened to?
Number 2.
Oh no. Oh my. All the first 10 are terrible.
Oh, that's the whole point.
So,
Listen to the raw stuff first. Then you have an idea what
Of course. Yeah, so my podcast, it has my name in it, so you can already imagine how self-centered I am. It's all about the things that I go through in my daily life. I try and make it as relatable as possible to people my age. So I'm kind of surprised you listened to an episode. But yeah, it's an episode for someone that just wants to kill some time. Have me on in the background while you're working on something, and maybe get a few laughs along the way.
Cool.
That's the best I could describe it.
And what's the name of the podcast? Just to ask.
It's called The Average Delinquent Podcast with Fahed Sakr. You can find it on any platform available to you.
Cool. And may Kobe look down on you too.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I figure we'll start right off the bat here. If you see me grab like this, I'm not grabbing an imaginary. Things are going crazy. There's actually a little fly in here that is bugging me. So.
No
Okay.
worries.
So the first question I got here that I've adapted is, what do you find you miss the most when you were young, now that you're older?
It will most definitely be a sense of direction, because, well, I can't really compare university to, elementary or middle, but I can certainly compare it to high school. And the comparison would easily be that in university, they make things a lot easier to miss out on or skip, be extracurriculars, lectures, tutorials, etc. They make it really easy to just do whatever it is you like. In high school, there was a lot more direction. You would get a lot more crap if you skipped a class or you took a sick day or things like that.
Right, which kind of makes sense because they want to make sure that you're self-motivating yourself to
Yes.
go through all the classes.
Exactly.
Cool. And what so far is the hardest thing that you found about getting older, besides just the direction?
I would have to say just taking care of yourself financially, I'd have to say. Not saying that my parents are, out of the equation entirely, but working a part-time job and trying to manage, not blowing all your cash in one go. It's certainly been a change, especially with the introduction of a credit card and phone bills and things along that line. It's certainly getting harder to budget my cash as much as I can. I can only imagine what the taxes will be like when I get older. So,
Some cases it can be up to 30%. If you get above a certain range, it could be like 50 to 60. It just gets crazy the
yeah,
higher
man,
the income.
it's crazy. Yeah, for real.
Cool. So when you were, next question I was kind of curious about here is, and I if you have been, I'd be like, oh, okay, this is kind of like Arkansas stuff. But have you ever been married? How long? And what do they feel contributed to the length of their marriage? So I assume in this case it would be, have you ever dated, been in a long-term relationship?
No, I've yet to be in a long-term relationship. Still on the hunt, still on the prowl. And sorry, what was the second half of the question?
And it said if you have been, then what do you think has contributed to the length of the relationship?
Oh, well, I can't really speak on that part because I have been in in a long-term relationship just of yet. So maybe I have to come back to that after a period of time or something.
Yeah, no worries. It's again, I've adapted some other questions just because I thought it would be entertaining just to kind of do it from the Gen Z
Right.
perspective here.
Right.
So no worries. So if you had to choose which you'd rather get rid of, hair on head or hair in your ears, which would it be?
See, it's a tough one because I have big ears, so if a lot of hair in my ears grew, it would be an issue. I would have to go with the hair on my head, just because I not necessarily put a lot of product in it, but I do pay a lot of attention to it. And if I were to lose it, I would look hideous bald. I know people like, Vin Diesel and The Rock kind of pull it off, but there's no way I could. I'm not buff enough for that just yet. So.
Nice. Yeah, and if you apparently your ears never stop growing, so if you get into your 50s or 60s, if you have hair coming out, you look like a Ferengi type idea. So
You look like you're doing just fine, man.
yeah,
Nice head of hair on your head, nice beard, looking good.
Yeah, it's all back combing. The hair from back here is like back up over my face. So no worries. So now, when we were initially talking about doing this, Fahed had asked me just to send him 3 questions. Well, I was offering to send him all the questions. And he said, "Well, just give me 3." So now we're getting to uncharted territory here for him. So nice. So the next question is, what do you look forward to the most as you approach middle age and encroaching decrepitude?
I would definitely look forward to having even more freedom than I do now, and I guess having maybe just less people to worry about. Just because, I can come in and out of the house whenever I like. My parents aren't necessarily strict or anything, but at the same time, I do have to think about them when I do certain stuff. If I leave for the entire day, I do have to take them into consideration on how they would feel and what they would be up to. I have to help them with certain stuff around the house, help my father with projects if he wants to redo the shed or anything like that. So the thing I most, look forward to the most would probably be just to get a nice place by myself or with other people and just kind of do my own thing, I guess, and just have just a nice job and just a sense of security, I guess I would say.
That's kind of a short term, because after a while, when you get into a long-term relationship, your sense of freedom goes right out the window.
I can imagine, man. I might take a few extra years to put a ring on it.
Exactly. It's a thing of, well, do I really? No, I'll get in crap if I do this. The self-evaluation comes in really good at that point.
I can imagine. Some people describe it as the ball and chain.
Well, let's put it this way. here's a big tip for you. If you have a Y chromosome, you're usually wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen. So I've seen.
Nice. So the next part of that is now as you get older, are you looking at wheelchair or a walker? Or are you going to go full cyborg or brain in a jar?
Um, it's hard to tell, because technology is advancing so quick. I might have to go to the prosthetics, although that would most likely take a massive chunk out of my bank account. So I would have to go for a walker. I I'm just hoping and praying that I'm healthy enough by then that all these, Cokes and Pepsis haven't added up, so I'd be able to walk around just at least a little bit. I couldn't see myself in a wheelchair. My goodness.
Not the full operated. Oh,
No, no, I wouldn't hope that. Then I just look like the Terminator or something.
exactly. I'm personally, I'm going when I get to the point of a wheelchair, I'm going to have a cattle prod on the front of mine and a cow catcher.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what is the thing you are most looking forward to inheriting from your parents beside additional debt?
Besides additional debt, wow, there isn't much else, I would say. Um, Man, maybe maybe just the house. I would have to say, if I were to inherit anything, it would most likely be the house. Although my both of my parents aren't really materialistic, so they don't have, a whole stash of clothing or jewelry I can choose from. And even then, it would be stuff from the 60s or 70s. So you can imagine it's just a little too bright for my taste. Uh, yeah, it would have to be the house, I would say. The house or the car, something to make my life just a little bit easier. Although the debt does look quite tasty. I might have to go for the debt.
Yeah, exactly. That's a sort of gift that keeps on giving. You just pass it along to the further generations down the road.
Yo, I cannot
So
wait until my son gets it.
exactly. So there's no tasty Mercedes or '67 Mustang or anything like that in your future.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah, I had one of those. My dad sold it. So
Oh, really? Oh my. Did he at least offer it to you?
oh no, no, no. I actually my father had this thing about going and whenever I get a car, if it was in the yard for longer than about 3 weeks, he'd sell it to one of his buddies. There was a game that he used to play called Jingles, and Jingles, you put a stack of quarters on your elbow, and then at that point you try to catch it, and the one that's on the top, it's you call it heads or tails, and if you win, it's usually done for money or something else. And my dad used to like to bet my cars, so it was like I went through probably about 7 of them when I was a kid.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Oh no. And were you trying to fix them up while you owned them and everything?
yeah, of course. I got a
Oh
wound up
no.
getting a 1970 Mustang Fastback. It was one of the beautiful sort of
Yeah.
torpedo type back cars. The car
Mhm.
itself, as it was sitting, was probably at the time, and we're talking uh, decades back.
Yeah.
The car was probably worth just rusted out and no drivetrain. It was still worth about $1,500, and I think my dad sold it for $25 and a bottle of Canadian Club. So
Well, at least I hope you got to see some of that bottle.
no, of course not.
Oh man, well, what can you do? Whatever he
Well,
says goes.
that was the idea. It was like, well, as long as you're under my roof, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay, great.
clothes on your back and all that.
Yeah, in his case, it was more the thing of um, perceived benefit on his part. If I wasn't, for what it's worth, though, I purposely stayed home for an additional 4 years just to make his life hell. So cool. So here's the last question for you. What's the thing that you find the most frustrating about preceding generations?
um. Oh, it would most definitely would have to be the idea that some of these people don't think that the rules apply to them, that they can just bend the rules as they see fit and do whatever it is so they like. Often you would see it in a classroom environment. Substitute teacher walks in, all of a sudden everybody thinks it's a day off and they get to make the substitute teacher's house. Not understanding that the substitute teacher is like just trying to get by the day and just trying to gain experience so they become an actual teacher. Skipping class and all that. Although I did it a few times, I will admit, some people just take it way out of context and really don't think that doing something wrong has any actual consequence. So they can just act like idiots in public and do all these things in the classroom and at school that really shouldn't be done by anybody, really, and of any age. You can't just attribute it to just, oh yeah, he's young, let him act young. It's just really terrible. It's almost a pandemic, unironically.
And it keeps going. Like the older you get, it seems like the more right and set you are in your ways, apparently, from what I hear. So.
Yeah, honestly.
Cool. Well, that's about it for the stuff that I have. And is there anything? Oh, there's one more thing that I kind of had, and that was the thing I've been doing on and off, and it's basically when I was probably around 8, 9. I was in grade 6 thereabouts, let's say. I had actually had a science teacher who really went and opened my eyes and got me thinking about the universe as it existed outside the planet. So I got quite interested into science and the rest of it. And that was kind of a linchpin moment for me where it actually got me away from the rural sort of Alberta environment that existed at the time, which was like pickup trucks and 22s and drinking beer and the rest.
Yeah.
It was a linchpin moment for me. And I was kind of curious, what kind of a linchpin moment have you had in your past?
Man, there's been many. It would have to be one of the teachers in high school that told me that if I didn't get my act, it was about the midpoint of a semester. And one of my teachers had told me that if I didn't get my act together, that they were just going to fail me right on the spot, no matter if I got the next 3 tests 100s on. And it wasn't because I was doing poorly, or it wasn't because I was acting out. It was because they could see that I really didn't care. So they had to almost force me to start putting my effort in and like actually giving it my all. Just to show me that, if you try at something, you can succeed, and you can't just keep going through everything, because you have to understand that this person had taught me 2 years prior. So they saw me when I first entered high school, and now they're seeing me when I'm about to leave as well. So they saw me go through three years, assumably, of me just lackadaisical, just going through everything, going through the motions, never really trying, just getting by on my grades, just looking for the pass, and that's it. And he said, look, man, when you get into university, that's not going to be the case. You're going to, and he was right, God bless him, he was right. He said that, when I got into university, if I didn't try at all and I just looked for the pass, I wasn't even going to get it. So he said, this is the midterm, try in the midterm, and if I can tell that you're actually like paying attention and listening in class and etc., then he might not consider failing me. But he said, if I keep how I'm going, it doesn't matter if I get 110% on the next test. He's going to fail me at the end of the year regardless. So I think that was probably a linchpin moment. Yeah, that pretty much tops all of them, I'd say. Most of them would have been from teachers. Academically, teachers really. It is a hard task being a teacher. I won't lie. Not speaking from experience, but speaking how I see it.
Yeah, I hear you. I wouldn't put up with most of the kids that I went to school with either. So.
Oh gosh, I couldn't imagine. Oh, how terrible we all were. My goodness. My graduating class as a whole, man.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened to most of my graduating class. I assume that there's at least 3 liver transplants and possibly a whole bunch of dead pickup trucks. Cool.
Nice.
Okay, well, that's about it for now that I can think of, Fahed. And just want to get you to plug your podcast again, if we could.
Yeah, sure. So it's called the Average Delinquent Podcast with Fahed Sakr, and you can find it on Spotify, iTunes. A few episodes are up on YouTube if you just look up Fahed Sakr, FAHED SAKR, and yeah, I hope you guys give it a listen.
Cool. I did. It was kind of entertaining. And congratulations on keeping this podcast a little family friendly.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I was just saying, congratulations on keeping the podcast family friendly. This one, it's there was a few F-bombs thrown around there.
Oh no. Yeah. Sorry, man. What can I say? It's the raw and unfiltered version of me. That
Cool.
podcast.
No, it's all good. But anyways, I'm gonna cut it here. Well, I'm gonna just throw it on pause here, and then at that point, yeah, I really appreciate it. This was podcast should be number 12, and this was Ask a Gen Z or Gen Z if you're north of the wall here. And thanks for listening, everyone.
Control cylinders. Deselect. Playback. Visualization. 0. Discharge. Control cylinders containing visualization of the electronic program. Indication. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Playback 0, 0.